We have another person that wants to talk to us. We're going to go ahead and get them on. This is Jamie calling in from Texas. Jamie, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Thank you once again for taking my calls. And that last call, that whole exchange, made me think about one of the responses we atheists give when someone says, well, what evidence would convince you of the existence of a God?
Yeah.
And we say, well, I don't know, but God should. And that sounds good, and it does make sense, but I'm thinking, is that actually a cop-out? Because every time I think about it, like, I honestly don't know. Like, what would convince me? Is there any way we can expound on that, or is there a better way to respond to that sort of argument point?
I have thoughts about this, and Jordan, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. But like, I hear other atheists, I hear other show hosts say that, and it's not my favorite response because it does sound kind of like moving the goalposts a little bit. It's kind of like you're really not setting a standard, and I don't think that's really fair because I set standards for other things I believe in. Why shouldn't this be one? And I think it's because the God claim itself, if we're just talking about God claims, not even talking about Christianity, right? That can be nebulous. It's one of the reasons why I'm very adamant about my use of describing myself as an atheist, right? The atheist position is that I can't say whether God exists or not until I know what a God is, because every time we talk about this, it's always going to be something different, right? One person's God is another person's not God, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of different every time you talk about it. So, I prefer taking it one claim at a time. If people want to espouse a specific God claim, there might be specific parameters we can look at for that. But Jordan, what are your thoughts?
I agree that it seems like I don't know that if I said those exact words, but it's basically a way to invoke the divine hiddenness argument as a way to like parry the question you're being asked. And so for me, the way I usually answer that question is I need some kind of evidence, by which I mean an observation, an argument, something that makes the existence of God the most parsimonious and plausible explanation for the world I see. That's what I need. Now, what exact form that's going to take, I don't know, because like you said, the concept of God is nebulous and ill-defined, and every person you talk to is going to have a different idea of what they mean when they say God. So it's hard for me to say this one thing, but something in that class of thing would do it for me.
Sure. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'd even broaden it to not just God, but a supernatural cause. Because, I mean, and I've called in many times, and I've explained that one of my major sort of discussion partners when it comes to spirituality is my mother, and she's a spiritualist, and she has quite pantheistic beliefs. So not even a God as in a singular, self-aware, maximally powerful agent, but any supernatural explanation to phenomena. Like, what evidence would convince you that the supernatural is real? And we can broaden it, like ghosts or cryptids or whatever, any supernatural phenomena. And I can never truly give a concrete answer, and I desperately want to. I'd like to say, like, if you showed me this or this or this, I would be swayed, or at least I would be on my way to being swayed. But as you said, these claims are so nebulous. Like, I'd have to basically pin them down and try and very, very hard to tailor my response to their particular belief or subset of beliefs.
Yeah.
Which is difficult.
Well, it is difficult, but you mentioned, I think there are still even some distinctions you can make even that. Like, for example, like people who believe in ghosts, like tend to like ardent ghost believers tend to believe that there at least is a process by which ghosts are made. Like, presumably the person has to die in order to be a ghost. Okay, that's a mechanical process, right? Like, that's a causal process right there. So there at least you can find, at least somewhere in the realm of empiricism, some sort of correlation there that can be looked at. Same thing with like Bigfoot, for example. As far as I know, Bigfoot would be a completely natural phenomenon, right? It would be just as like observable as a gorilla in the zoo, right? Like that's just a beast. That's just a thing that's out there. And with the God claims, I think those are particularly interesting, especially in regards to Christianity, because like the book, at least the Gospels, as they are purported to be, are supposed to be recorded events of things that Jesus did, and like people witness those things. So like it's not like they're completely unobservable. If a person can watch something happen, that is a kind of observation. Like, yeah, we tend to put anecdotes as like the lowest form of that, but it is an observation. It's not completely outside of the realm of human experience. So like I still think that there are ways that you can sort of, if you really think about it, find some kind of metric in order to observe phenomena. But it might be more complicated. Like, for example, psychology and sociology often talk about sometimes very broad things that we don't have exact mechanisms for, but we can still sort of test bits and pieces of as we grow more knowledge of. And maybe if supernatural stuff existed, it might be the same way. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Jordan? Oh, yeah, Jamie.
So after you, Jordan. After you.
Yeah. Well, we'll get Jordan back with us in just a second. Go ahead, Jamie.
Okay. Well, I was about to say in the process of this conversation, the best thing I can come up with is like, okay, just give me something that's either on-demand repeatable or has predictive power or has reliable predictive power, like a model that predicts what's going to happen given a certain set of parameters. Like if I kill this bird in the next 60 seconds, it will be resurrected by this power. And if I do it every time and the bird comes back to life, then I'm going to start believing. Or something that has predictive power, like I ask even something simple, like what is the exact temperature of tomorrow exactly throughout the whole day? Oh, yeah, and this is the temperature curve, and it's exact. Cool, that's way beyond the predictive power of anything science has.
Yeah.
I kind of start believing that, where it's something beyond our current ability. But even at that, it's like, well, it's the whole Arthur C. Clarke, advanced technology, indistinguishable from magic.
That's right.
But until I can prove that it's not magic, again, that's the whole falsifiability as well.
Yeah, it is. And
woolly thing.
You know, like philosophy, first of all, the philosophy of science is really interesting to look at, right? Because I think baby atheists get this idea in their head that, oh, we can just measure everything through science and all knowledge can come through science. And that's like the best. I believe it's the most consistent way to look at something, sure. And perhaps you could even claim it's the most reliable. I think that there's an argument for that. But it's up to this point, it's not everything. At least our current methodologies can't give us everything that we need to know. And science is a social enterprise, by the way. I'm not an expert in aerodynamics. I can't tell you exactly how a jet plane flies. I just know. I mean, I can tell you the basics, but I know that there are people who have figured that out, and they've shown that they figured it out because that stuff is made. We can't all be domain experts at everything, right? And so we're simply, if God was real, quite frankly, I don't know if we'd even be domain experts in figuring out how that would even work or how that would even function. Because I mean, God tends to work by some rules, right? Like there seems to be some causal things. I don't know if you're taking the Bible literally in some accounts. So I don't know. It is very bizarre and it's hard to pin down. But all you have to do is really start with, okay, well, let's look at one miracle. Let's look at that. Has anybody regrown their arm from, getting it cut off? No? Well, I don't know. That's a good one for me. Anyway, Jordan, we got you back. Did you have any thoughts?
No, I think you're right to focus, to talk about falsification. You can kind of help them. That can be a way to have the other person kind of walk you through what they think and see what sort of portions of their claim you could test. Even if you're not testing it empirically, you could test it in other ways. But yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Jamie, I think that's all the time we got for this call because I want to make sure we get some other calls in tonight. But thanks so much for calling in.
Absolutely.
Jamie, you've been, I think, our number one repeat caller for this show this year.
Yeah, and there's there's some people who don't like that. They say they're sick of the sound of my voice. So to those people, nah, 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 nah.
I like that. Thanks, Jamie, for calling in.